Hi everyone, Nigel Saunders here. Today I'm going to be repotting my African Acacia style Serissa tree, and it may get a new pot. There is 3 possibilities for pots. I have the pot made by David that it's in now. I could just repot it in the same pot. It's a beautiful pot. I have a tokonami pot that I got from the Toronto Bonsai Society. It's a really nice pot too. And below that I have a large oval shaped pot, which is a Japanese pot, and it's very, very nice also. So I'm going to decide after I get the tree out of the pot and it's all root pruned, I'll try it out in the different pots and see what's looking good. The large oval pot will definitely give the tree more of a landscape feel, kind of like what it was in before I put it into this pot. The tokonami pot here is very similar to this pot in size. It's maybe, no, it's about the same depth and everything. So yeah, the only difference is the color. This pot has sort of a green tan glaze on it, and this one is more of a sand color. So if I want more of a desert feel, maybe the sand color would look better. It's hard to say. If I had the sand color, I'd have the sand colored pot, and I wouldn't want to display it with like sand on top of the soil. I would want it green, sort of like it is now. Maybe more of a wet season image for the tree. So you'd have the sand colored pot, the green moss, the kind of sand colored trunk, and then the green foliage on the top of the tree. So you would get that contrast right from the pot up to the upper canopy. So yeah, that's something I'll decide when I've got the tree out of the pot. I can try it in all the different pots and see what's taking my fancy today. The last time I repotted this Serissa was in 2021, where I put it in this new pot. And there's several reasons I want to repot it today. One is I want to change the angle of the tree a little bit. The second one, you can see the trunk comes down and it kind of goes straight into the soil here. So I've got to check out the roots in this section and try and get it flowing outwards a little more. And I want to change the position in the pot. It's kind of jammed over to the right hand side. I was hoping to get kind of a landscape feel. I have some rocks here. And I think if it was a little more central in the pot, it would look better. The canopy on the tree has grown a lot wider since I repotted it in this pot, and it's starting to look a bit off balance. So those are the reasons I want to repot it. I'll also work on the root base, improving it. And it's been in this pot, you know, it was in August of 2021 I repotted it. So it's been a few years and it could definitely use some root work. I have the front of the tree marked here, so you know, I want to rotate the tree just slightly in the pot. So my first step, I'm going to remove the zebra and all these rocks, and then I can get the tree out of the pot. And it'll be exciting to see what the roots are looking like this time. Serissas are pretty good at growing roots. I'll remove my front marker here also. Okay, so the next step is to get it out of the pot. I'm going to try lifting on the tree and just see if it pops out. No, it's not popping out real easily, so I'm going to have to loosen up the sides here. It may have grown a lot of roots since I last repotted it. I'm sure it has. So the reason I'm repotting it now is this tree was kept cool over the winter in the basement at around 10 degrees Celsius or 50 degrees Fahrenheit. So it basically stayed dormant all the winter. I had a grow light above it, so the you know, it stayed nice and healthy. It just stayed dormant. And then I brought it up here into the greenhouse and I gave it that real, fairly hard structural pruning. I did a lot of, you know, branch removal. And it was still dormant at that time, and now you can see the top is starting to grow in with lush foliage. So it's like springtime for the tree. It's becoming active and starting to grow. So it's a good time to repot it, especially if it's been kept cold over the winter. If this tree was kept warm over the winter, then, you know, maybe early summer would be a better time to repot it. But if you keep the tree cool in the winter, this is like spring for it, and everything starts to grow. The roots, the top of the tree. Okay, I am going to try and get the tree out of the pot once again. See if that's loosened it up at all. Oh yeah, it has. There it goes. It is out. So I'll take the pot away. I'll get that cleaned up. So here is the root system on the tree. Let's just have a look here. Well, there's lots of roots on the bottom. There's my drainage screens. And you can see, you know, the roots have grown. It's keeping all the soil intact. So I'll begin by combing out the soil from the root system. And I'll just see what roots are in here. There's that foul Serissa smell as I comb through the roots. Yeah, so there's roots, you know, it filled the pot quite nicely. And the tree looks well watered. Because Serissas have fine roots, they like a nice level of moisture. They don't like it too wet, they don't like it too dry. So to keep your Serissa healthy and alive, you've got to be very careful with the watering. That you keep it moist at all times, but your soil should have good drainage so it doesn't stay wet. Otherwise the fine roots will rot. And if it dries out, those fine roots will dry out. So yeah, it's a tree that needs very careful watering to keep it alive. And bonsai soil sure helps. You know, a nice porous soil, you can water it a lot. You know, in the summer I'll water this 2, sometimes 3 times a day. So I put, you know, top dressings of sand on this planting, and you can see the sand just stays on top. It doesn't migrate down into the soil. It might migrate a little bit, but you can see the soil is, you know, there's still porous bonsai soil. It's not filled with sand down lower in the pot. And that's what I found. The soil sand just sits on top. So I have a lot of roots in here that are very tangled, and that's typical of a Serissa. They grow tangly roots. They don't flow outwards like a maple. They just want to grow wherever they want. They don't, yeah, it doesn't naturally get a flowing root base on a Serissa. You have to work at it. They like to grow in tangled balls. So the roots look fairly dormant still. So I think it's a good time to repot this tree. I'm not seeing like a lot of active growth in the roots. So I'm just kind of using the end of my root rake to untangle the roots. And just sort of, you know, being quite gentle with them. And just sort of feel around, just tug gently to try and untangle them. So, you know, right at the edge of the pot, there's some fairly thick roots. So the roots definitely filled the pot, which is quite surprising because it's a fairly large pot for this tree. And there's quite a mat of roots on the bottom, I can see. Yeah, there's a good fibrous mat of roots on the bottom. So those will all have to be combed out. I don't want, matted roots, a thick layer. Otherwise it, makes it a little more difficult to get water and air into the root system. So I'll just keep combing away, working away at getting the tree bare rooted. That is my goal. And then I can come in and start the root pruning. So I'll work away at this, and we will come back when I'm getting closer to getting the tree bare rooted. Yeah, the soil looks in good shape in here. It has taken me about an hour and 15 minutes to get the root base to this stage. I've untangled a lot of roots. They were just all intertwined. It was quite a tangled root base. So I'm at the point now I can begin to do a little bit of root pruning underneath. You can see all the roots that are growing kind of out and back under the root base. So I can do some trimming here, and then I can clean out more soil. So I think that's my next step. All right, I'm coming underneath the root base here. So I'll start pruning off some of the roots that are kind of curling back underneath the tree. And there's a lot of them. They grow out, they hit the side of the pot, and then they start growing back underneath the root base. So this one can come out. And they all seem to tangle together. I had to do a lot of untangling with my fingers. They were just like a tangled mat of roots on the bottom. And that's just the natural tendency of these Serissa roots. They always seem to grow in a tangle. I mean, I've been sorting this root base out from when this tree was very young, and every time I repot it, it's always the same situation. Tangled roots. Yeah, they just don't grow nice and radial like some trees do. Like most trees do. So I've got some of those roots removed, so I can comb out some more soil from the bottom here. And then I can do some more root pruning to further flatten out the root base. Because if it goes in that oval pot, it's not a very deep pot. I'll prune some more roots off the bottom here. Yeah, so I'll need a fairly shallow root base for that pot if I decide it's going in that pot. Look at this root. You can see how snake-like the roots are. I'll just trim that off. Do a little bit of a profile prune here. Get rid of some of these really long ones. Root that has to come out here. So I'm keeping the fine roots on the bottom. I'm just pruning away all the thick ones and shortening the fine ones. Okay, I think I'll take it over the washing station once again and see if I can clean up more soil. And I'll clean up the tray and come back and do more root pruning. I've got the root base washed out now, and I think I've got most of the soil removed, which is always nice, so I can begin the root pruning. So here is that live vein that comes down the front and kind of goes off into these thick roots here, and there's a few roots coming out here, but not a lot. So I think I definitely need to take a bit of vigor out of this root system, this big thick root here, and encourage these finer ones to develop, which they will do. There's also there's a root here. I don't know where it comes from. I think somewhere down here. It kind of comes up and crosses the front of the tree. So that has to get pruned away. And you can see this root's growing back in towards the tree. I'll take that off for starters. And then I want to find this root here. Where does it come from? Well, it comes from down below. I will at least prune off this part of the root. Like that. Taking that off. And there's another part I can prune off here that's crossing in front of the trunk. Like that. This one, isn't too bad. I'll never get beautiful flowing roots on this tree because they just don't grow that way, and luckily acacias don't really grow that way either. They're kind of have root systems similar to this. There's a root up high here I can take off. Again, you want your root system kind of flowing down into the soil. Now, this root is a bit of a problem. It's quite horizontal, and there's a lot of growth up top on it. So let me just find the front of my tree here. It was going to be somewhere... it was going to be somewhere about here, but then I have that thick root coming out front, which doesn't look so good. Yeah, the root system's a lot nicer from this view. However, so here, while we're at the back, there's some roots sticking up here. I need to prune that back. Get rid of that. Well, that's probably why I didn't pick this as the front of the tree, because the root base has this big thick root coming out. I'll trim off this root that's sticking up on top of this other root here. So that will get pruned off. That kind of flattens that a bit. Now, is there anything else I can fix on that? There's not much growing underneath. I mean, there's a few back here. I could prune off this upper part, and I think I will. There's some better flowing roots underneath here. I've just got to make sure it's coming off of that root. No, it's not. That's coming off the root beside it. The only one coming off this root is this one that kind of goes a funny direction. Oh dear, what to do? Well, I've got to make some decisions. If this is going to be the front of the tree, which is a nice front, I've got to decide about these roots coming out the front. They're two separate roots. You can see I can split them apart. And the problem with the trunk is that it comes around and curls. It doesn't flow outwards, which is a bit of a problem. Aesthetically, anyway. Just untangling some of these roots. Yeah, it's a bit of a problem. Now, I could do, you know, some pruning there. I'm just going to see if I can separate this one root. Find out where it goes. Okay. Of course, it's tangled underneath this one. Yeah. I'm just looking at the front again. So something's got to be done here. So these two roots are coming straight out the front. The root beside it flows down into the soil better than the one sticking up here. If I remove that root, I mean, the tree would be okay. It would eliminate, you know, part of that problem. So I think that's the solution. I think that root has to be eliminated. So here I go. I'm going to rough cut it off first, like that. And I'll see if I can nibble this one back. So now from the front view, it's improved. I'm looking at this root. It's kind of sticking up out of the soil, and the reason is you can see coming off of it, there's a root that's grown straight down, and it's pushed it up. So I don't know if I'll be able to untangle this one or if it's even usable, but let's see what I can do here. Pry it out. Yeah, it's not a very good root. So I'll definitely prune that part of it off. So that's gone. And then, I don't know, this root's still sticking up. And I think it could be removed. I have better roots that flow down into the soil, so I'm going to take that one right off. It's just sticking up too high out of the root base. A nice root here. I like that one. This root's nice over here. They're all, you know, fairly good looking roots. Some of them need a bit of untangling. Now, there's a root here. It comes off here and it goes, this one goes back, so I'll prune that one away. And this one goes 90 degrees. It's not very flowing, so I'm taking it off. I don't mind if they go off course a bit, but I don't want them too wild and tangled. This one could be shortened to there. Now, let me re-look from the front here to see if things are improving. So I still have the one root coming straight out front. It's not as thick and heavy looking as when I had the two beside each other. So that's an improvement. There's a root here sticking up. And it's coming off of this root, so I'll take that one out. Like that. I'll try and untangle this one. Don't know where it comes from or where it's going. It comes from way back here, so I can take that one off. It's not going a good direction at all. Trim these tips back here. Okay. Yeah, so, you know, my front view, I can't rotate it that far. It doesn't look good, but somewhere here is pretty good. So I've sorted out a lot of issues with the root system. I've got it as good a looking as I can get it today at this stage in time. So I think I am ready to plant the tree. So I've got to pick out a pot for it. So I'm going to clean up here and then we'll try out different pots and see what looks the best. Here's the first pot I'll try is the oval shaped pot. Quite a large one. So here is the tree. It definitely fits in the pot, that's for sure. So here it is from the front. That's as low as I can get the tree in the pot, so a lot of these roots would kind of get exposed, which would look quite nice. The canopy will definitely grow larger. It's just starting to grow in now. I think my front would be more here. So that's one possibility, is that oval-shaped pot. Just standing back looking at it. It looks quite nice. It gives it a good landscape feel being that size. I think, let me try it in another pot. I'll just wet down the roots before I do that. Make sure they don't dry out. Yeah, I'll try another pot. My feeling is that a smaller pot might make the tree look less acacia-like and more of like an ordinary bonsai. So here's the sand-colored tokonami pot. So the tree would definitely fit in the pot. And it's a little deeper of a pot. So there's what that looks like. It definitely loses the landscape feel. And it looks more like, you know, an ordinary bonsai. The pot is kind of getting, the pot is getting closer to, you know, traditional bonsai proportions. Which I think just doesn't make the tree, it doesn't give that landscape feel and that acacia feel, that isolated tree in a landscape look. So I think I'm going to go with the large oval pot. I think it'll work really well. I always liked it before when it was in a large pot. I had the small tree in a large pot and it always gave it a feeling of an expansive landscape. And you start getting smaller pots and it starts to look crowded. Not crowded, but yeah, it's a different feel. And I definitely less of a, you know, an acacia feel, more of a traditional bonsai look. So I think I'm going to go with the oval. Now the position in the pot, I've always had it offset quite a bit, and it gives more of a landscape over this side, but I don't know if I want to offset it that much. this time. I think a little more central in the pot. So maybe like here is center. So if I offset it just a bit to there, it's not bad. Maybe a little closer to center. Try it there. It has a different feel when it gets closer to center. I think because the branches are so strong on this side, it needs to be offset a bit more. And then my rotation, maybe I can rotate it a bit more. Something like that. And then the tilt of the tree, I wanted to tilt this side down a bit, so more like that. You know, I think that's good. I don't think I can get a better position than that in the pot. So I'll get the pot ready. I'll get some drainage screens in, a very shallow base layer of soil, and get the tree planted. Okay, in goes my base layer of soil. Make sure all these roots are sorted out, they're looking good. Get the front of my tree. I was hoping somewhere about here. And I've got to get the angle right. And I'll kind of hold the angle and work the soil in to the roots there. Okay, let me step back, have a look at it, make sure everything's good. I think that's looking good. I don't think I can get it better. I know I wanted to rotate the front around more, but I think then I get that root sticking out the front. Yeah, I think that's a good front based on the roots and the structure. So I've just got to make sure all my roots are kind of positioned, make sure there's nothing too far out of order. I think it's good. So I'll add more soil and start, filling in the pot with soil. So this has been a big repot. It's taking me a lot of the day, but I've been working away at it carefully, trying to make good decisions. And that's all you can do. You've got to work with what the tree gives you. The tree's nice and firm in there. Actually, it's really firm in there. Okay, so I can top up the soil just a little more around the base of the tree, and then I can get it watered. Okay, here I go with the water. Give the top of the tree a water too. So I think it was good timing for repotting this tree. The root system wasn't active yet. It hadn't started growing for the summer. And the tree had been kept dormant all winter, and you can see the top is waking up and growing with a ton of vigor. The leaf size is quite large actually. So I'll run another watering can through it. I can hear the soil sucking up the water. Sounds like Rice Krispies breakfast cereal. And I'll have to water it several times today. because that soil will continue soaking up water until it's fully hydrated. Then it'll be good. Okay, that is watered. Potting is complete, so let's fly in and have a look at the tree. So here's the distance view. So I like the pot with it. It's a nice dark colored pot. It frames it nicely. So I can either put sand or moss underneath the tree and it'll look really nice. I think I got the angle of the tree nice. The canopy looks flat. I think the pot size is perfect for it. You can see it growing now. See the large leaves coming out, and all these spaces will fill in over the summer. I'm sure by the end of summer this will be a dense canopy. It'll take a bit of pruning to get the canopy, to grow it and keep it flat. It'll take a while, but it'll get there. I think the root base is looking quite nice. Trunk's looking good. I think all is well with the Serissa. I've just got to, let it recover, get it growing again, and it'll be on its way back to becoming a beautiful tree. It was a little hard, doing that major pruning on it, sacrificing a lot of ramification, but I think I improved the structure underneath the canopy. And I think this repotting also improved it. I think it needed that big landscape pot. Yeah, so that is it. I repotted my Brazilian rain tree yesterday, and here it is today. And you can see the leaves are still out, which is a good sign that it's getting moisture to them. If it was kind of suffering, the leaves would stay folded the entire day. But so that's one good sign. I won't know for sure how the repotting went until, far in the future, but so far it's looking good, and so far the Serissa is looking good. I'll spin the tree around so you can see it from all angles. So here is the front, coming around to the right hand side, coming around to the back, over to the left hand side, and back to the front. It's a beautiful day outside today, so I'll be bringing more of my tropical trees from the plant room out to the greenhouse here, and some of those will require repotting too, so there's more repotting on the way. So that is all for today. I'm Nigel Saunders. Thanks for joining me in the Bonsai Zone.